What's going on, Alabama fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports, and we are breaking down this SEC matchup between the Georgia Bulldogs and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Going into this game, Alabama is the number one seed in the SEC, so technically they are the home team. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, really just the jersey matchup, who gets to call heads and tails, things like that. But when you look at these two teams right now, they are damn near identical. The only difference is Alabama has that one extra loss there against Oklahoma. Georgia, yet again, coming in as the favorite for this game at 2.5 with that point spread there. Man, when you look at the scoring offense, you look at the scoring defense, both of these teams right there, pretty much the same exact thing. So really, it's going to come to the fine details of this game to see who ends up coming away with a victory in this one on Saturday. So we do this every single time for every single Alabama game, but I think it holds true. The more likes we get, the higher chance that Alabama is going to end up winning. So if you want the Crimson Tide to beat Georgia yet again in the SEC championship game, and just overall, Alabama has absolutely dominated the Bulldogs over the last 10 matchups here. If you want Alabama to win this ball game this weekend, make sure you get down there, spread some luck, and like today's video. All right, these two teams met back in Week 5. That game was at Georgia, by the way. So this game is in Atlanta. It's basically going to be another home game for the Georgia Bulldogs when you take the location into account there. But Alabama dominated this game really through and through in that first matchup. Ty Simpson was really, really good. Alabama didn't necessarily run the ball too great in this game, but really the key for this game, the first matchup, was the third downs. You can see right there, Alabama absolutely dominated on third downs in this matchup, going 13 of 19. They were able to extend drives in this game, and you look at those penalties and the penalty yards there. Alabama did a really, really good job in terms of those penalty yardage as well. So keeping your composure in a game like this is also going to be a very big key factor in this ball game this weekend. And we just touched on it a second ago. Alabama has absolutely dominated Georgia really since like 2012 here. They have met now this will be the fifth time that they have met in the SEC championship game, going all the way back to 2012. Alabama has won every single matchup. And by the way, since 2008, Alabama is 10-1 against the Georgia Bulldogs. The only loss coming in that 2022 national championship game. By the way, Alabama does also dominate the all-time record between these two teams, leading 45 wins, 26 losses. There's also 4 ties mixed in there as well, which is weird when you think about college football, but I guess that was just way back in the day here. Look, man, Alabama has dominated this matchup, and until Georgia proves that they can beat Alabama, I'm going to pick the Crimson Tide every single time. So let me know your score predictions to the SEC championship game between Alabama and Georgia. It's going to be the pinned comment of today's show, but let me know. Predict the score to Alabama versus Georgia down at the pinned comment of today's video. All right, this game is big. Right now, Alabama at number 9 in the college football playoff rankings. A couple of my buddies in one of my group chats that I'm in, a bunch of graduates from Alabama, and they are convinced that if Alabama wins this game, they're going to get a first-round bye. I'm not so convinced at that point right now. Obviously, this year in the college football playoffs, it is not the 4 highest-rated conference champions. It is just the top 4 seeds. Now, to me, when I look at the rankings right now, I think if Alabama wins this game and Texas Tech wins their game as well, Texas Tech probably going to go up to either 2 or 3 there. Ohio State, Indiana, I think both of those teams are probably locked in. They are pretty much, the clear 1 and 2 teams, in my opinion, in the country right now. And if that game's close, I can't imagine a world where one of those teams drops out of the top 4. So how far do we think Alabama is actually going to jump up there? I don't know. I think if you win this game, you're probably hosting a first-round playoff game, which would be a very, very fun outcome if that were the case there. But if Alabama ends up losing, I think with the committee putting them now above Notre Dame, as long as this game is close, I think Alabama should make the college football playoffs. Now, if Georgia ends up blowing Alabama out, say it's an outcome of like 35-7, Georgia wins, they might end up falling out with those 3 losses. And, the possibility of a, group of 5, you have 2 group of 5 teams getting in. Which, by the way, you guys know how I feel about that. I don't think the group of 5 needs to be in the college football playoffs at all. Just let them go do their own thing. Let's have big boy football here with the Power 4 teams at this point right now. There's a possibility that 2 group of 5 teams could make it, and if that's the case, that cut line might be at 9 or 10, and if Alabama is sitting, at 12, 11, maybe even 10, there's a chance they might not make the playoffs at all, although they would be still ranked most likely inside that top 12 there. But with Alabama moving up to number 9, I think the committee just realizes that, hey, we can't have the number 1 seed in the SEC regular season not make the playoffs, especially if it ends up being a close game there. So I still have no faith in this committee. Their logic a lot of the time seems really weird. It really seems inconsistent. They move Alabama up ahead of Notre Dame, which I'm happy with, by the way. I think it should have been that all along, but they got to win versus Auburn. Notre Dame also had a very impressive win. I get it. It's against Stanford, but, are we saying Stanford's like that much better than Auburn? I don't really know. Their logic just seems flawed to me at this point, but hey, I'm happy with where you sit at number 9. You got a little bit more wiggle room to work with. All right, we'll come back to this preview here in just a second, but this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the holiday season. Best time of the year for sports. You have bowl games coming out here in just a couple of weeks. You have basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are making decisions every single day, what gifts to buy around Christmas time, what to eat, which games to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right, and that, my friends, is on Prize Picks. This is the 2-pick power play that producer Aiden and myself cooked up for this game this weekend, going with Gunnar Stockton, more than a half passing touchdown for him, so all he needs is 1 on that front. And then Ty Simpson also going with a more than on 1.5 passing touchdowns for him. New feature alert, by the way, here on Prize Picks. They now offer early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. On Prize Picks, by the way, how you play is up to you. One of my favorite features on Prize Picks. If you want flexibility, choose the Flex Play, where you get paid even if one of your picks misses. But if you want the biggest payouts, go with the Power Play. But no matter how you play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app today. Download the Prize Picks app and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link, by the way, down in the comment section of today's show with the pinned comment. Also going to be down in the description of today's show as well. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, so since Georgia played Alabama, they have now gone on a 8-game winning streak here, beating Kentucky, beating Auburn. But that one was kind of a close game there. One of their best wins was against number 5 Ole Miss at the time. That one was a shootout. Gunnar Stockton was able to, throw the ball all over the field in that game. It was really back and forth a lot of the time there, but Georgia ends up coming away with the win in that one. They also beat Florida. That one was kind of a close game. They ended up beating Mississippi State. Another really good win for them. Came against Texas, kind of dominated that game 35-10. And then to close out the season, Charlotte was a win. And then Georgia Tech, man, I'll be completely honest. Georgia Tech's definitely no slouch. They're no, total pushover this year, but still, not the most impressive performance at all out of Gunnar Stockton and this Georgia offense. The defense, however, did play really, really well. Gunnar Stockton has had a decent season so far this year. He hasn't absolutely gone crazy by any means, but he does have 8 rushing touchdowns. I do think that is very notable. He's got the most rushing touchdowns for this Georgia offense. Doing a good job taking care of the football. Doesn't have any fumbles so far this year. One thing that I do want to make note of as well, Chauncey Bowers wasn't necessarily the wasn't necessarily, the leading rusher for this Georgia team this year. He was number 2, really number 3 outside of Gunnar Stockton. He has, Chauncey Bowers was number 2. Gunnar Stockton was number 3 there in terms of those, rushing yards there. But Chauncey Bowers did a really good game in that game against Alabama before, had 12 carries for 119 yards. Nate Frazier, by the way, only had 4 carries in that game for only 30 yards. But still, limiting explosive runs, as we'll touch on here in just a little bit, is going to be a big key for Alabama in this matchup. So who you guys got in the SEC championship game? Let me know what you guys think. Type A for Alabama or type G for Georgia. You can also spam your RTRs down in the comments section as well today. All right, let's get into some keys to victory for this game this weekend. Number 1, you got to be able to limit the explosive plays when you're out there on defense. We just touched on that a second ago, but it's kind of been a bit of an issue all year long for Alabama. It hasn't necessarily totally caught up to them and bit them in the butt quite yet, but you saw it in the first matchup versus Georgia. You saw it in the Iron Bowl, and you really saw it as well in that loss at the beginning of the year to Florida State. It's tackling, it's angles, it's setting the edge. It's just doing your job, not trying to overcorrect for somebody else not necessarily doing their job. But I think this defense over the past couple of weeks, for the most part, they've been playing really, really well. They've been creating a lot of turnovers, but sometimes they do let their guard down and give up big plays. You cannot do that if you want to end up winning this game this weekend. All right, key to victory number 2. You got to be able to dominate on third down. Again, we showed you that graphic early on in the show. Alabama was 3 for 19 on third downs in that first matchup compared to Georgia's only 2 for 8 in that matchup. We were able to keep drives rolling on offense. We were able to eat up some clock, even though sometimes you didn't necessarily end up scoring on those drives. That's one thing that Alabama, I think, has to do a little bit better job of in this game, especially in the second half. They did not score a single point in the second half of that first matchup. It's not just extending drives. It's also turning those long drives, eating up the clock into points as well. Touchdowns are great, but you got to be able to at least put 3 points on the board. And even in the second half, Kirby Smart does a good job making those adjustments in the second half. I think in the second half this year, Ryan Grubb has kind of struggled to make some of those adjustments as well. You've seen them kind of struggle in the second half of games this year. So got to be able to dominate on third downs on both offense and defense and turn those long drives into points. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. We have, a lot of recruiting news that we've been putting out over the past couple of days. Signing day was yesterday. It was just an absolutely chaotic day around college football. We're also going to be live, by the way, for this SEC championship game. We're going to have a lot of fun during that as well, so do not miss out. Join the community here at the Alabama Football Report and hit that sub button for free Alabama videos each and every single day. All right, let's get back to the keys to victory here. Number 3, the rushing attack. I really want to see Daniel Hill get more carries in this game. I've been asking for it for a long time now, but I want to see him get at least 15, 20 carries in this game. And, still kind of, we're filming this video on Wednesday afternoon, so the availability report is going to come out on Wednesday evening. So we'll get an update there on Jam Miller about where he sits right now. But probably doesn't look great for Jam Miller after that game last week. I want to see Daniel Hill get more carries, and I definitely want to see some more A.K. Deer in this game. Daniel Hill, I know he's only averaging 3.8 yards on the season right now, but over the past couple of games, it seems like he gets 4 or 5 yards every single time he touches the football. Also does some good things in the receiving game for this Alabama offense as well. So get the rushing game going, get Daniel Hill going in this game. All right, key to victory number 4. Can we get Ryan Williams going as well? I just told you guys the SEC availability report probably going to come out on Wednesday evening. We're filming this video Wednesday afternoon, so hopefully Ryan Williams is not featured on that SEC availability report because this season hasn't necessarily been the best season for Ryan Williams. I've seen some people argue, should he be an outside receiver? Should he be in the slot? Is that really impacting what he has, been able to accomplish so far this year? You look at, the past 4 games and just really has not been that good at all. I think he's only got one game this year where he has over 100 receiving yards and does also have those 8 drops this season as well. But versus Auburn, a lot of people were saying Ryan Williams just totally got benched in that game. He didn't just totally get benched. He had 38 snaps versus Auburn. And he didn't get a single target, didn't get a single reception in that game. So can you get, your star receiver going? This guy's probably making the most on the team in terms of NIL money right now, and he just really hasn't been the impact player that I know he can definitely be. And I know when we talk about Ryan Williams, there's some people out there that get all butthurt. They think I'm just picking on him. Look at the numbers, man. Ryan Williams is not putting up the numbers that we all expect, and I think he expects as well. I'm not going to be the person that comes out here and, thinks he's lazy or anything like that. Ryan Williams is working hard, just hasn't been able to get it going here this season. Hopefully they can get him going in this game this weekend. All right, I'm going to give my score prediction here now. Look, until Georgia can prove that they can beat Alabama on at least a, averagely consistent basis. I've seen a lot of people say that this game has turned into a rivalry. Well, rivalries, both teams end up winning, and Georgia just has not won in the past 11 matchups. Alabama's 10-1, so I'm going to think this one's going to be a close game yet again. Alabama wins it 31-28. Hopefully the defense shows up, gets a couple turnovers for them, and, Ty Simpson at the end of the day can take care of the football as well, because I do think, just like in any matchup, the turnover battle is going to be a big key factor in this game this weekend.